welcome to Why Comic Book Crowdfunding. I'm Ulanowski, a local journalist, Substack writer, and the owner of Starving Author Press. And today we're talking about why the people on this stage crowdfund comic books and why you guys in the audience should support crowdfunding campaigns and self-publishing. This panel was originally supposed to have Kat Kalamia and Phil Falco of Lifeline Comics on stage with us. Fortunately, they couldn't make it because of family emergency, but we have the one and only Eric Palicki with us. Before we begin this roundtable discussion, I'd like to read an excerpt from the acknowledgments of my book, Massacre at the Comic Shop. If you self-publish a book, like it or not, you've joined an ideological war on the establishment. You're among a ragtag group of rebels facing off against a powerful empire. Because the more successful your book is, the more you're showing these companies that, like a straight shaving razor, the old ways are unnecessary. We don't have to get published to have a book. To quote a poem I wrote in American Bug, we can make great art ourselves without kissing corporate ass. And by the way, both this book and American Bug were crowdfunded. So with that being said, I'm handing the mic away to my four esteemed panelists. So Eric, introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Eric Palicki. Like Nick said, I am a writer of comics, both for other publishers, and I do just want to say that while I do love crowdfunding, I do also enjoy cashing checks from publishers, so we want to make sure that we don't burn any bridges today. I have been published by Marvel Comics, Ahoy Comics, Black Mask, Black Box, Mad Cave, and a number of other publishers, but I've also crowdfunded a number of books, both that I have written and created, as well as curated anthologies and working with other independent creators to run their Kickstarter campaigns. And I'm hoping to impart a little of that knowledge onto you all today.
I'm Dan Parent, and I've been doing this for many, many years. Primarily known for my work with Archie Comics since the 80s. Worked for also almost the big guys. And then I've also done my series Die Kitty Die through Kickstarter. I started that in 2016, which is actually 10 years ago. And I also did an Archie crowdfunding presentation too for a Kevin Keller book. So I do quite a bit of experience with Kickstarting. It's fantastic to do it, and it's also grueling work at the same time. But I'm happy to be part of the Kickstarting world, so I'll share my secrets of Kickstarting with you.
By the way, it's really been 10 years? That's crazy.
I know. I realized it when I said it.
I'm Alton Simpson. I do Vampires in New Jersey. We're in Brooklyn, which is Westchester, and Blackjack, and Buddy, all share Universe Comics. And don't be afraid to sell out, like these guys say. Just don't sell out cheap, and don't give up your IP. That's the key. I've never taken a deal yet. I've had some offered, but they wanted to give everything away. And that's what happened to, Siegel and Schuster, and you see how that turned out. But Kickstarter, I've done about $200,000 on Kickstarter. Shipped 10,000 books, over 10,000 myself. It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding because you have a one-to-one relationship with the consumer. There's nobody between. Often when you're with corporations, you try and get something to people and they influence it, so they don't always get what they want. But with Kickstarter, you can go direct, and Indiegogo. I've done 2 of those, 3 of those too. So, but yeah, anything you guys want to ask me or us today, if you are doing Kickstarters, if you want to know more, we're happy to tell you. I teach at college. I'm a PhD too, so I always give, like giving information to people. So.
I'm Joseph Duis. I'm a writer and publisher for Heresy Studios. I have done 20 Kickstarter campaigns for comics. 18 Kickstarter, 2 backer kit campaigns for comics since 2017. do a lot of horror and a few superhero comics.
So why should comic book fans support crowdfunding projects?
You want us to answer?
Yeah.
I was waiting for the answer.
Oh, no, for sure.
Well, you should support them because it's different than what you normally get. It's independent people always create something. We try to anyway. It's different than the normal stuff. In the case of comics, of course, Marvel, DC, and all the biggies. I think it's important to support new ideas because pretty much we'll be seeing Batman and Superman and Spider-Man forever as long as we keep paying to see them. So there's very little room for new ideas in Hollywood, which means your TV shows and all that stuff are going to be kind of homogenized and the same all the time. I did New York Comic Con, we were just talking about it, and McFarlane was here, and what's the explanation? Claremont was there. So my table was here, and you get like 100,000 people a day there. I had my little Vampires in New Jersey, Stay D, and I did really well. Mostly because those guys were waiting in line for the big guys, but also because I stood out because they were like, that sounds interesting, it sounds different. And people are looking for that. And unlike the 80s, when you saw a lot of different ideas all the time, different movies, different things were happening, you see less of that now. And that's why you should support it, because new ideas are important. And to be honest, I'm tired of reading my own stuff. I want to see what you guys do. And my family's very tired. I want to see what you guys do. And I'm interested in what you're creating.
Yeah, because you read a lot more of your own stuff because you're editing it.
Yeah. By the time you put it out, you're like,
Yeah. Plus the stuff on Kickstarter, like, it's unfiltered, like, because you're seeing, like, people are putting their ideas and their projects up there that haven't gone through, like, corporate companies and haven't been through, where editors who have made you change things, revise things. You're seeing really fresh, unfiltered projects in there. Yeah.
So sometimes people who haven't backed Kickstarter campaigns seem to think it's like GoFundMe, as in you're just making a donation for the sake of a donation. But actually, the idea of backing a comic book Kickstarter is usually to be the first person to have access to that physically or digitally. A good Kickstarter campaign will offer all types of rewards, depending on how much money someone is backing the project. This can be everything from being drawn to the comic, the original cover artwork, prints, and so much more. In other words, a Kickstarter will have different reward tiers, where if you back the project at a certain amount, you receive various different items. Also, Kickstarters have add-ons, where if you add a certain amount of money to your pledge, you get an additional item. So let's talk about this. What are some goodies you guys offer in your Kickstarters?
So what's really great is if you have been making comics for a long time, like most of the people on this panel have, is I think by and large, my most successful add-on is just a Dropbox link to that entire back catalog of comics. It costs me nothing to make it aside from my yearly subscription to Dropbox. I can send the link, and all of a sudden anyone who backs my Kickstarter at that tier level has access to 400, 500, 600 pages of additional material in addition to the new project that I'm funding.
I find, like, in my case, that I think the art rewards are the most popular. Sketches, I'll do sketches, or we'll give away original art pages from the series. Then if you really, really want to make some money, offer to draw people in the comic. That always is a surefire way to get people. People are narcissists; they want to see themselves drawn in the comic books, and it works every time. That's almost fun too. I enjoy doing that, putting people in the books. So, and prints. We like prints and lanyards. There's always the little goodies that people, little trinkets people like too. But yeah, those are always fun to do. You hit a certain level, and then you unlock the next reward, and those are always fun. But there are definitely ways to make money. Then you have to be careful, because then when it's time to fulfill everything, then you're like, what did I do? You have to fulfill it.
Yeah, I think one of the worst rewards. My very first Kickstarter campaign when I was, this was 2012, 2013, I did t-shirts, which was a horrible idea. It seems like such a good idea on paper, but then you realize that not everyone wears the same size, not everyone prefers the same cut, and you have to manage all of that in arrears, and it's...
Yep. It's so funny you say that. It's the same thing. We did t-shirts once and never again. It's just for whatever reason, the profit margin is not that great on t-shirts anyway. Like you said, with the sizes, and then they get, and plus they're kind of bulky to mail.
Yes.
So yeah, we did it once and that was it.
Yeah, I would offer t-shirts with like a pack of stuff. So you get a couple issues of this and a little bit of that and a t-shirt thrown in. But you guys are right, t-shirts are challenging because everybody's a different size and all that. Stretch goals are incredibly popular. I sometimes think people are only getting my comic for the cover and the stretch goal. I like them to read the inside because I'm a writer, I'm not an artist. It's exciting to do a Kickstarter because you're offering, it's almost like your imagination. You haven't made anything yet. I make the comic ahead of time, but everything else is still up in the air. So that's why you can kind of take a leap of faith with what you're doing and see if it works out. Now, after the Kickstarter, you do analysis and you say, well, t-shirts didn't work, this didn't work, this didn't work, and you're probably not going to offer that again. But we're really trying to give people what they want. You know, sometimes without asking them, but afterward, well, the people on my Kickstarter tell me. In the middle of Kickstarter, they'll tell me, you know, this isn't working, that isn't working. That's one of the things that I do like about Kickstarter, is very interactive. So if there's a reward or something that seems a little off, or you want something additional, they can tell me, and I can throw up a new reward if I want it. So, which is pretty, in the middle of the campaign, which is pretty cool.
Does everyone know what the, I'm sorry to interrupt, does everyone know what the concept of a stretch goal is, what that means?
That was actually going to be my next question.
Okay.
To be clear.
So a stretch goal is if my goal in a crowdfunding campaign is to raise $5,000, a stretch goal would be if it reaches, say, $7,000 or $8,000, then there would be an additional reward unlocked. So whatever you thought you were getting when you originally made your pledge, there would be an additional item added on because we exceeded our initial goal by whatever the stretch amount is. So just to clarify, because not everyone knows.
Yeah.
So
It could be a baseball card with a certain character, a certain artist. It could be, I think for Bunny Goes to Space, which was my most popular one, that's like Harley Quinn meets Barbarella. One of the artists came up with a special ID. It was from, I forget the movie, Bruce Willis was in it, and Mila Jovanovic. She had a multi-pass. So they made a multi-pass for Bunny Goes to Space, which people really loved. And it was metal, so it was beautiful. And that was the artist I did. That's the other thing. The artist, since I'm a writer, I want the artist who usually does have a day job to have fun, you know, because I'm not their main source of anything, income-wise. So I like for them to put their own spin on whatever, and usually it turns out really well. And that was one of the things.
Yeah, you gotta be really careful with stretch goals though, because it's very easy to overspend. You go, hey, yeah, we met the stretch goal. Oh, now I gotta increase shipping for every single order. You know,
It's heavy.
yeah, I would say like, you know, I've tried all kinds of different add-ons. We have like these Order Dracula pins. We had Order Dracula medallions. I've done t-shirts. Actually, t-shirts have gotten easier in the past like 18 months of Kickstarter, because now you can do item. You can do a specific question for an item in your survey, so it's a lot easier than it used to be. I never get too many t-shirts, but I know people who will complain to me if there are not t-shirts. The one thing I would say, the one thing that always works though is I do a deluxe edition where I take the comic and then I do commentary pages in addition to the story pages, and then I also put in the original scripts. I don't always get print backers of that, but PDF is really popular. If you can charge triple for a PDF, and people don't have to deal with shipping and they don't have to deal with international problems, a lot of people will take that, and then it's just it's really easy to fulfill. It's really just kind of a good way to get a little bit more money in a Kickstarter. And there's always a segment of people that really are interested in the behind the scenes stuff.
There's a couple of things specific to your point is international shipping has become almost untenable in the, since I started, there's no longer a slow boat option, so it will cost you upwards of $30 or $40 to ship a book to Europe or Australia. So having digital options and deluxe digital options is a really smart play if you are planning to run a Kickstarter campaign or a crowdfunding campaign of any stripe.
Yeah, as we're starting to touch on, Kickstarter campaigns are just fun. Like, stretch goals create excitement for the campaign. It keeps readers involved in what's going on. And while Eric already briefly explained it, I'll expand a little bit on what a stretch goal is. For every Kickstarter, there's a minimum funding amount, and if the project doesn't make that goal, and they don't get the money, and the Kickstarter fails, and the project doesn't come to life. But stretch goals are different dollar amounts beyond that initial goal. So, like, for instance, if a project reaches a certain stretch goal, there'll be more pages in the comic. Well, and other example. Well, let's talk about specifically what kind of stretch goals you guys have.
Yeah, I have generally offered digital, like I try to keep the stretch goals digitally. With my most recent campaign, Atlantis Wasn't Built for Tourists, we had 2 additional stories that were illustrated and printed in the back of the book once we reached our stretch goals. But to the points made earlier, in terms of my cost, I factored in hitting those stretch goals when I decided what shipping I was going to charge, what the cost of the book would be. So that's a little bit of inside baseball, or a trade secret is that I anticipated hitting that stretch goal, so I did not get shorted when it came time to pay for the shipping.
Yeah, you need to plan everything ahead of time. If you're doing stretch goals, you need to know before you launch what those stretch goals is going to be. You need to know what your backer or your monetary threshold is going to be for that stretch goal. It's just like, setting your campaign length and your campaign goal. All that stuff you need to figure out ahead of time. I like to get the whole comic done ahead of time too, so that there's no unexpected delays. If you have delays, it's better to have them before you launch. And something unexpected happens and your artist gets hit by a bus or something.
The costs, you need to, if you're going to run one of these, you need to know ahead of time. So if you're going to do baseball cards, source everything first. Check with who's going to print them, check with how much it's going to cost to ship it, and that way you're not shorted. Because a lot of the crowdfunding people that if you overpromise and underdeliver, it'll be hard to do your next Kickstarter. And then if you don't source these things ahead of time, so you know how much anything costs, you don't know what to put on for your margin, so you can make some type of profit or at least break even, you'll go in the hole. You don't want to do that.
One of the schedule goals that we do on Die is once we hit a certain amount, it jumps automatically from a soft cover to a hardcover.
That's nice.
So I think we initially asked for like 25K on the Kickstarter, and then when we hit 35K, it becomes a hardcover. And we factor that in, we're not losing any money or anything, little things like that. And then again, extra pages is another one of 5 extra pages in the book or a new story. So for if you hit another $5,000. But yeah, you don't want to overpromise. One mistake we made in one of the kiddies was we did a figure. That should have been a whole separate Kickstarter, not even related to the book.
Yeah.
Because we did it as a stretch goal, which of course you had to pay for this figure too. It wasn't like a freebie stretch goal. You had to pay for the figure, but even with estimating the extra costs and stuff, it ended up. I think we had allowed for like $10,000 to make the figures shipped, and it ended up costing us like $20,000.
Yeah.
So that should have been a whole separate Kickstarter.
Yeah, that's another way to do it. You can unlock a new goal and a certain stretch goal instead of having it to be free. but that kind of presupposes that everybody is paying enough attention that they notice something new is coming out, and they really, which brings up something else is if you change something significant about your campaign, you got to make sure that the page reflects that. And I like to put, if there's something new, I can put it right at the top of that page to make sure that if you looked at this page before and maybe you followed it, but you didn't back it, there's something new that you need to be paying attention to.
Yeah, we always say that too, like, there's the stretch goals that are freebies, they don't have to think about, they're gonna get this no matter what, and then there's the stretch goals that are gonna be like an add-on that you can buy, basically.
So, I know there's can be only so much you want to necessarily share on a panel, but do you guys have negative experiences with traditional publishing you want to share that, that crowdfunding can be an alternative to that?
I don't think I want to, like I said, I really do enjoy cashing those checks. But like, let me pivot a little bit and talk about some of the books that I have crowdfunded. So Manticore here is done in a very traditional European style. It's a 56-page book. It's oversized. It's hardcover. It is not something that an American publisher is going to be interested in. So this is something that I can put on Kickstarter and find an audience for, whereas most of the publishers that you think of off the bat are not going to want to touch this kind of a book, if only for the expense of production. Making a hardcover is quite a bit more expensive than a soft cover. Is that a negative experience with traditional publishing? I guess not, but it's definitely an example of something that can really only be done in 2026 through something like crowdfunding.
All right, well, I got no bridges. So I can burn as much as I want. I never, worked with Marvel or DC or any of the big guys, but I've been turned down by almost every major independent publisher for one reason or the other. Me personally, if a guy like me can sell 10,000 books and ship it, and you guys don't even know who I am, that tells me the power of independent publishing. It might not be their taste, but it's somebody's taste, because my wife's like, why do we have all these books on our dining room table? And my kids are like, are you shipping again, Dad? So that's the power of Kickstarter. I mean, you're reaching people that really seem to want what you have. You just have to do the advertising and get out there and do things. In my case, I had already sold out in local comic bookstores from Philly up to New York before I did Kickstarter. And that kind of gave me like credibility with the artists. And I've had Marvel and DC artists work with me, contact me. I didn't really have to chase anybody. With Vampires, I posted on Upwork, and I was lucky enough to get an artist that worked on Silver Surfer for Marvel and also Walking Dead. And he liked my idea. And he was so excited. He's like, we're going to do this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this. And he did the initial, breakdowns for the first 3 issues, and then, of course, he ghosted me, which was okay, because he had done a lot of work. And then I searched his name, and I found out that he ghosted Marvel too in like the early 2000s, which was bizarre to me. And he wrote an apology letter, 1 line, that you can still see, to Marvel. So he has like anxiety issues, which a lot of creative people do. We're very internal. Me, I'm a salesperson too, so I'm external. But I'm both kind of. But Kickstarter is great to reach people that ordinarily you wouldn't reach. And then if you can fulfill, like I said before, they're going to come back, which is really cool. So with international shipping, I decided not to do international shipping this time. And my international customers were all mad at me. So now I have to figure out a way to satisfy them, because they really, a guy in Australia, I think I have a guy in Thailand. I mean, they really wanted, physical stuff. So it's, you got to figure out a way to make them happy. But it's a challenge, but it's fun. Also, I did take a course I will tell you about, Comics Launch, that I took it after my first Kickstarter. I already funded, because I felt like the other people I worked with, the artists, were veterans. and they kind of carried me over the line. And I'm the guy that's supposed to be in charge. So I need to know, to me, if you're managing, you need to know what you're doing. So I took Comics Launch, and they gave me a logical, organized way on how to do everything with Kickstarter. And then I think my first Kickstarter was, I think it was 6,000. And then my second one was 4. And then I did those close together. You kind of want to space it out because you don't want to burn people, you know, wear everything out. And then my next one was bless you. My next one was I think 13,000. And then my next one was 17. And then Bunny was 37, which was crazy. And the algorithm with Kickstarter is interesting because once you hit a certain level, you start showing up on other people's pages. And I had people tell me that they saw my Kickstarter on the Lady Death page. If you guys don't know who Lady Death is, that's huge. And once they saw me next to Lady Death, they were like, I got to see what he's doing. And then it just explodes. So it's interesting. Like everything on the internet, the algorithms change. You got to chase them. We'll talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I've never had a Kickstarter that's been big like that. I've done many of them. They've never gone viral. They've never gone big. But what I would say is, if you are like me and you are not that great at Kickstarter,
You don't make it fun. Look,
yeah.
if you fun, you're good.
So, yeah, that's exactly right.
That's
Right.
right.
Everyone
They
has,
pay you, you're good at something.
everyone has a goal, right? So part of that is set the goal, the place is realistic for you, set timelines realistic for you. And what I would say is, even if you're not hitting 13,000 on Kickstarter, you do get something out of it. Doing Kickstarter has allowed me to continue to make comics over 10 years. It has allowed me to do so more or less, breaking even at least, for 10 years. And that's something that I never would have expected I would have been able to do. And if I hadn't done Kickstarter, then I would never have been able to do it.
So I'm going to open up to questions now. The first 5 people to ask a question will get a free copy of my book, American Bug. And my friend is in the audience, and she'll hand it to you.
Right. I would like to ask, as an artist, does social media help boost your? I'm sorry.
Okay, take your time.
Okay. What I'm trying to ask is, when it comes to being an independent artist, is it possible to still get noticed by companies like Image and other indie companies?
Guys, you're artists.
I mean, I kind of went the opposite way. I was like an established, working for the big guys, and then went to Kickstarter because I wanted to do my own projects, you know, that I had in mind, and they weren't interested really in doing anything. You know, I knew nobody wanted to do Die Kitty Die. This is why I went to Kickstarter and didn't even try to shop it around. Then once I did Die Kitty Die, then other publishers wanted it. We ended up publishing it through. You know, we also, you know, once we published it, we went through Chapter House Comics in Canada to get into comic shops, get it distributed. So once you have a successful Kickstarter, then people will come around if, you know, they're like, oh, this is already a successful product. Can we, you know, latch onto it now? What was the question again?
Managers notice if you do independent.
Oh, yeah. So, but yeah, they will, because then, so once we did the first Kitty, then we had got an offer from Dynamite Comics to publish it. Then we went with Chapter House in Canada because they were going to let us do whatever we wanted, basically. So we were like, oh, they'll get us in the Diamond catalog, and they're not going to take all our money, you know. So we went with Chapter House, and it worked out really well. So that's the best way to get someone's attention when you have a successful Kickstarter. But yeah, it's interesting. Social media is really interesting because like I'm very active on, you know, Instagram and stuff, and when I was sort of posting all the I did a lot of teasers for Die Kitty Die, like for like months ahead. I would just do like a teaser every day, and I had a few thousand people interested, so that helped. Yeah.
Oh, you had your hand up before.
I was wondering, you kind of just touched on it, but what would each of your first thing to do, what would be the thing that you guys do to get the word out first? Like, what?
again, posting on like, well, I don't use Twitter that much anymore for other reasons, but just putting little teasers on social media, it helps too, again, because I'm an Archie artist and I feel a lot of people follow my work. I was able to glom onto that, so I'm more than happy to glom onto that, you know, use my whatever following I have through my other jobs to push Kickstarter. Yeah.
Yeah, like I would say, one of the nice things about Kickstarter now, you know, I've been doing this like a lot of the people up here for more than a decade, and Kickstarter, the platform, has evolved right along with us. And one of the nice options now is the pre-launch page. So you can create your page for your campaign with some teaser art and a blurb about what your project is. You can have that up for 2 weeks to a month before you actually launch the campaign to get the word out. Spread that link on social media. If you have a community of other creators that you can speak to get pull quotes, to get them to share that link as well. It's really nice to have, a few dozen or more followers of the campaign before it even launches, because those day one numbers are so important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's another thing. That's a big thing. What you do your day one, you're not your campaign's going to do after the first day, because there's like a formula. You could, there's like those pages where it tells you how much you're going to make, which they're not always right, but you need a strong launch.
Yeah, I usually post as much as I can. I look at what other people are doing. Sometimes I'll run a Facebook or an Instagram campaign, because I find that if you can get 100 to 200 signups, you build your Kickstarter back pages, and then they approve you, and then you have the initial page he was talking about. So it'll be a page where you can post all over social media. Sign up here, we're going to launch soon, try and get them excited. Once you get that, then you can see how many people are signing up for the launch. And that's the key that these guys are talking about to the first day. And usually if I can get between 100 and 200 signups, I'm going to fund pretty quickly. I've had some campaigns fund in like 5 minutes, because they'll get I podcast a lot too. I do a lot. Podcasts are good. There used to be a lot more podcasts. I'll do my own podcast sometimes, and I'll bring on the artist. So you kind of have to look around and see what's happening at the time. Things have changed over the years on how to promote, but the more people you get to sign up, the better. And that's before the campaign. And then once it launches, all those emails go to them. You got them a little ginned up, a little excited, and then, boom.
Yeah. And
When you people who will not launch unless they have a certain number of backers, the more you do, the easier it is, because you can look at it and say, okay, last time I had $30 a backer, so I need 100, and that's something that after you do that first Kickstarter, you'll have all that data, and actually they give you a lot more data than they used to. And you'll know exactly what time of day people are backing. Like I'm in Mountain Time, so I'm noticing a lot of my backers are on the East Coast. So past like 3 p.m., I'm not getting a lot of backers. So I noticed that. So I think about what's the best time for me to launch. Is it in the afternoon, in the morning, days of the week? All that stuff is going to be in there. So I think after you do, the first one is the hardest. The first one is painful because you don't know what you're doing, and you know you're going to make mistakes. Give yourself a lot of time, have a little goal. Have a plan, but know that the plan is going to change.
For the record, I did my first Indiegogo before I did Kickstarter, and it was a total flop. So I usually fail, incredibly tragically so, before I succeed. I felt so bad about the Indiegogo that only 3 people signed up, and I closed it down and sent those 3 people my comic, because I felt I let them down. But you learn from your mistakes. I was telling the story yesterday. My first comic was based on a film I did that streamed on Amazon, and I took it to my local comic shop, Ron's Comics in Mount Holly, New Jersey. Ron told me it sucked. He said, it sucks, and I'm going to tell you why. And he told me everything bad about it. And then 2 years later, I took him Vampires, and he said, oh, it looks pretty good. I'll stick it in the store. And next day, my buddy texts me, he goes, dude, I went to get your comic and it sold out. So it's okay to fail as long as you learn from your mistakes. And try and get feedback. You know, like a local comic store person will tell you, because comic people are pretty upfront, they'll tell you what they like or what they don't like. And when you put it in somebody's store, you're in business with them. You're a team. So you want to make a good product, and they want to sell your product. When I got to Jay and Silent Bob's and sold out 9 times, and met Kevin, you know, Mike, who from Comic Book Man runs that store, and he was like, Kev. Kev was like, what? He goes, this guy sold out. Like, I said 5 times, and Mike corrected me and said 9 times. Kevin was like, dude. And I was like, dude. And Jay was like, you guys know each other? So, then we actually hugged it out. Because I told Kevin, I said, you know, you're the indie guy that inspires everybody. You know, I go, you don't even know. I go to these conventions, I'm going to break up here, but I tell people, you did something nobody thought could be done. He shot a movie with this guy's money, his parents' credit card, and it made it. I said, and that's what you do for people. You inspire. So when I look out, I see hundreds of Kevin Smiths, and he literally started tearing up, and we started hugging. So you need to do everything you can to get that out. Kickstarter is another way for you to reach people, but don't be afraid to do other things too. Because people buy things all different ways today, over the internet, PDFs. You know, we like paper because we're, you know, the older people like to feel it. You know, we're tactile. But don't be afraid to try things. Don't be afraid to fail, but learn from what you do wrong.
And if you're doing comics, you are part of a team, right? You've got an artist, you've got colorists, you've got letterers. Make sure they're all on the same page. It's a force multiplier, because if you're out there alone promoting your book, it's not going to be as successful as if you've got the artist you're working with, the colorist you're working with, you know, everyone out there on the same page doing that promotion. And it really does. There are times during a 30-day Kickstarter campaign where it feels like it is a job unto itself to just be out there posting on Blue Sky or Instagram or Facebook or X. So, you know, just be aware that it's not a thing where you can hit launch and then forget about it for 30 days. It is definitely a job unto itself. And then you got to make the thing.
You in the front?
So I'll be honest, the most intimidating part to me of this whole Kickstarter process so far is the idea of then, as you said, fulfilling those orders and actually getting the shipping done. So from your guys' experience, what does that actual shipping process look like, and how do you handle it?
Well, I use like a lot of family members when I put them to work, and that's the worst part. That's the worst part is the fulfillment, I think. And if you can get a fulfillment, like has to do it for you, that's one thing, but that costs a lot of money. So I tend to try and do as much of it as I can, or hire a friend to do it. But you know, it's very important, because that's if successful fulfillment is how you're going to be able to do another Kickstarter. Yeah. You hear the horror stories about Kickstarters that they don't fulfill them, or it takes like 3 years to get the product done. That is the kiss of death, because if you don't deliver, people are going to remember. You have to deliver if you want to keep doing Kickstarters.
And if you deliver well, then they'll remember that too.
Absolutely.
I usually set my printer up for who's going to source everything ahead of time, so they're ready to go when I need to fulfill. My family's too damn busy, so when I say 10,000 books, I mean I actually put them in packages and ship them. You just have to set things up ahead of time, you know, to try and prepare yourself for that big push. And be flexible. You know, if you send somebody something by accident, be ready to change. I think that's the best thing about being a small business with this, is there's no layers to go through. If somebody says, hey, you know, you left something out, you just go, hey, dude, I'll get it to you. And that's good. You know, you don't have to wait.
And also too, if there is like a problem, like there is a delay, because there actual delays do happen, just be very communicative with the people.
Yeah,
be upfront, tell them the truth. I explain in detail what's going on. And when people ask questions or get concerned, as long as you answer them, it's good. It's the Kickstarters where there's the radio silence when you don't hear from them, or they ghost you. The actual campaign ghosts the buyers and the backers. That's when it all falls apart. So just be open and honest. You know, I've had some printing delays before, and people understood. I would every day go on about it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I talked to a lot of other comic creators who crowdfund, and everybody has a slightly different way of doing it. Some people will go, I can't do the fulfillment, I just don't have time. But I have money to pay a fulfillment service, and they'll pay a fulfillment service to do it for them. Other people will go, hey, I'm just gonna do it myself. And that's fine. I pretty much do it myself. I sometimes have my kids help me, but sometimes they're not in the mood. So, and you know, the unexpected things come up. I just saw that now there's going to be an 8% surcharge, fuel surcharge from the post office. Stuff like that happens. Just always give yourself a buffer, whether it's money or time. If I think it's going to take me 3 months, I say it's going to take me 6 months. Stuff comes up. You know, my daughter just broke her wrist. Now I'm going to the doctor every day. It's just, you know, so it took me a little longer to order stuff and get things fulfilled than I thought. But that's just the way it goes. There's always going to be unexpected stuff, but just give yourself a lot of buffer, a lot of time. Like you said, communicate. If something really throws off your plans, and you say, I'm not going to make the deadline. I had that happen. I haven't made my deadlines every time except once, when the printer suddenly had a bunch of orders because they were doing a sale, and I was a month behind. So a month I missed the deadline by a month. So if something like that happens, say, hey, this is what's happening, and be totally transparent. People who back your project are a lot of times they will back it because they like you as a person. They do want the product. But by backing it and being on that kind of relationship with somebody, you cut out the middleman, and they will be sympathetic to you if you communicate with them.
So, unfortunately, we don't have time for another question, but as I said at the beginning of this panel, I'm Nick. But everyone on the stage is accessible. So, and as I said at the beginning of the panel, I'm Nick Ulanowski. I write about books, comic books, politics, and culture on Substack at starvingauthor.substack.com. I say that, but I mainly write about comic books. And I have a book coming out titled Truth Before Comfort, Confessions of a Comic Book Journalist. And this is the cover artwork for it. Jorge Santiago Jr. drew the cover artwork for it, for Truth Before Comfort, Confessions of a Comic Book Journalist. And I plan on launching the Kickstarter for it in early May. If you want to stay informed about my upcoming book, you can follow me on Substack at starvingauthor.substack.com. On Instagram, it's cynical but fun. That's cynical_but_fun. I'm also on Blue Sky, Starving Author, that's one word. And yeah, with that being said, everybody else on the stage, tell the audience where they can find you.
Yeah, like I said, I'm Eric Palicki. I am at Eric Palicki on Blue Sky and Instagram. And this weekend, for the next 4 hours, I will be in Artist Alley Table W13, and some of my Kickstarted and other books are for sale.
I'm at table Y01 down in Artist Alley, and you can find me on danparent.com, and on Instagram, I'm Parent Daniel.
I am tableless. I flew in from Jersey to see you guys. And if you want anything, I got my stuff up here now. I'm Vampires of NJ on Instagram, Vampires of New Jersey on Facebook for us old folks. And I'm very accessible. Anything you guys need, if you're working on a Kickstarter and you need some like feedback or whatever, contact me. Good luck.
I have Blue Sky Heresy Studios LLC. I have Instagram Heresy Studios LLC Comics. I also have a website, HeresyStudiosLLC.com. I actually still have the late pledges over for my last Kickstarter. That's at callforheresies.com. If you didn't get that, I get free stickers to the URL. I don't have a table here, but I have 2 of everything if anybody wants skins or comics. Cool.
Nice. Cool. Thank you all for being here, and have a great rest of your show.
Hey, Nick, thanks so much for putting this together.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.